The NHL's been around for over a century, and while the league's given us some incredible moments in that time, we're gonna have to admit that some of them were pretty embarrassing. Going from weird step-sibling in the sports world to one of the biggest names in the game, there were a few stumbling blocks on the NHL's path to success. In this list, we'll be covering the 10 most embarrassing NHL moments. Starting off with number 10, fighting the fans. If Philadelphia is known for one thing, it's the rowdy fans. Combine a player known to be a little hot-headed with an audience known to be feisty, and chaos is inevitable. When Domi was thrown into the penalty box, Philadelphians lobbed insults at him as is customary. Unable to handle it, Domi jumped up and threw his cup onto the especially rude fan. Another fan jumped at Domi and broke the glass, allowing Domi to deliver a pounding. As if nothing happened, Domi was allowed back on the rink later that game, which the NHL was criticized endlessly for. Number 9. The Showdown. There are two reasons to watch hockey. One, the hockey, and two, the fights. It's inevitable that when you combine a rough sport with high-stakes competitions, players are gonna lose their cool. Montreal's Aaron Downey and Ottawa's Brad Norton engaged in a fight that fans are never gonna repeat, for all the wrong reasons. After getting hit with Norton's stick, Downey got up and threw off his gloves. Norton did the same, and fans moved to the edge of their seats expecting a brawl. Tensions rose, and then suddenly, after circling each other for a few seconds, they both skated away. We don't think fights have a place in sports, but if you're going to fight, at least you can make it interesting. Number 8. Too many players. Hockey is a pretty simple sport to understand, and one of the basic rules is that it's 5 versus 5. Bruins coach Don Cherry seemed to forget one of the sport's fundamental rules during a game in 1979 Eastern Conference Finals. Ordering a team around, Cherry was sifting guys on and off the rink, but he made a critical error by miscounting the players. At one point during the shuffle, 8 players shared the rink. The ref called out the line change, which allowed Montreal to tie the game and eventually take home the cup. This mistake is one of the biggest mental blunders in the league's history. Number 7. Executive interference. Sometimes the NHL interferes directly in the game as they try to balance the game's competitiveness with the bottom line. When John Scott was chosen to lead the All-Star game by fans, rumors started that the league wanted a more marketable player to be the captain. Scott was then traded around and pushed out of the Pacific Division per the requests of the NHL higher-ups. Eventually, they conceded the captain position to Scott, and he ended up being the reason that the Pacific Division took home the cup. Number 6. Visa Toscala. Fans of the Toronto Maple Leafs have come to expect some embarrassing moments from the team. In 2008, in a game against the New York Islanders, an Islander player shot the puck towards the goal from across the rink. The puck moved across the ice at a speed that anyone could see and react to, and yet, the Toronto goaltender Visa Toscala missed it entirely and the puck slid right into the goal behind him. It was the longest goal ever and made it 197 feet traveled, and Toronto fans everywhere hid their jerseys. Number 5. Bad weather. Hockey, being an indoor sport, isn't really susceptible to adverse weather conditions like baseball or football, but a hot spring day in the third game of the 1975 Stanley Cup created a disaster for the league. The warm weather created a thick fog that emanated from the ice. Spectators were unable to see the game as it ended up covered in a deep fog that hid all the action, and it got even weirder when a bat flew into the ice rink and was beat with the players' hockey sticks. This is probably the weirdest Stanley Cup in history. Number 4. Butterfingers. Regarded as one of the best NHL goaltenders, Patrick Roy's record proves he's a good player. But after catching a surprisingly good shot, Roy raised the puck in the air to show it off. His triumphant movement was cut short when he suddenly dropped his puck right next to the goal. Brendan Shanahan delivered a quick nudge and the puck slid right in, giving the Red Wings the goal that they needed to eventually take home the cup. Number 3. Auto goal. The 23-year-old Steve Smith was a part of the Edmonton Oilers in the game against the Calgary Flames in the 1986 Smith Division Finals. The score was tied 2-2 when Smith fired the puck from right outside the goal. The puck rushed forward, hit the team's goaltender, and bounced right back towards him and into the goal, giving the Flames the ending game point. And worst of all, it was his birthday. Number 2. Choke. Up 3-0 in the 1942 Stanley Cup Finals, the Detroit Red Wings had all but secured the win. In a twist of fate, Toronto Maple Leafs didn't let the losses get to them and they played outstandingly, winning Game 4. The Red Wings proceeded to crumble under the pressure and lost the next 2 games dramatically. Realizing how dire the situation was, they tried and almost succeeded to turn it around on Game 7, but ended up losing the game and the championship in one of the game's most embarrassing showings. Number 1. A web of lies. The New York Islanders had reached a slump in the 90s and were looking to make a change. Multi-millionaire John Spano agreed to buy the team for $165 million and build it from the ground up. Things were looking up for the Islanders, and then his check bounced, and the web of lies began to unravel. John Spanos had lied to the NHL's board of directors and didn't have the money. This was a huge PR nightmare for the NHL, and it raised questions about its vetting process. They were about to put the reins of one of their most cherished teams in the hands of a con artist. Spanos ended up going to jail for fraud. That's all the time that we have for today. What did you think of this list? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to drop a like and ring that subscriber bell to stay up to date on our future videos.